a lot of things stem from just loving yourself and self-love. So when you love yourself enough and you take care of yourself, you know what you bring to the table and you know your own weaknesses and strengths and you can leverage them. I feel like it is a lot easier to be confident that way because you know yourself so much and you don't need other people to tell you who you are.
Hi everyone, this video is gonna be a little bit special because today I'm joined by my Malaysian friend Catrina. She is a YouTuber and she also has an Instagram page with more than 40k followers. Catrina, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. So I'm Katrina, and I was actually born in Malaysia, but I grew up in Singapore, and I'm currently in the States. So, I was really, really honored to be invited by Colin to his channel to talk to all of you and share our own experiences. And that is what I love to do on my channel as well. I love to share my life experiences and my life lessons with everyone in the world. So, there we go.
Katrina, could you tell us how you started YouTube? When did you start and how did you start?
Okay, sure. Actually, I wanted to be a YouTuber from a really young age. I'm just someone who loves connections and I value connections a lot. And I feel like they're a big part of my life. But for such a long time in my life, I didn't have the courage to just upload videos, even though I was already talking to myself in my room. And everyone in my family knew that I just had this passion in me, even though I just wasn't courageous enough to live out of it. However, last year, I just wanted to take a different road in my life and I wanted to steer my will, my reeling with more passion and like courage because I feel like I just wanted to not live my life with regrets. So last year when I moved over to the States, it just really motivated me to want to start afresh a lot of things. So I decided to embark on this YouTube journey last year and I just took it as a very chill and very fun experience kind of way instead of just putting a lot of expectations on my journey. So that was how I just persistently and consistently started to record videos every week, and it just started really randomly. I didn't even have a camera, and then I started to wanted to take it more seriously, and I started this whole journey and learned to edit, learned to film with my camera even though I'm really bad at it. So yeah, I just feel like to anyone who wanted to start this whole journey, just have the courage to do it and just take it as like a fun thing to do and not put so much expectations on yourself, and you're going to enjoy the process so much more than the outcome that your mind thinks that you need.
Yeah, it's always, I guess it's quite difficult to take the first step, but once you
Yes, yes,
get into it, you you realize it's actually not as difficult as you think,
yes,
and you
yes,
enjoy the process. I guess
yes,
that is the whole point of making content on YouTube, to
yeah,
enjoy the process. So I've also seen your Instagram page.
yeah.
You feel active on it.
Yes, I used to be pretty active on my Instagram. However, like about a month ago, I decided to take a break and really just detox from Instagram and my social medias because I feel like a big part of me, I portrayed an image and my everyday life over there, and I was a regular participant of social media. However, I realized that it has actually took a toll on my mental health, so I decided to just take a break from it. But yes, I was actually a very active user of Instagram and had my own branding and yeah, and I actually used it for a very long time. I started to use Instagram at 14 or 15 years old, so yes.
So are you getting monetized on Instagram?
Oh, I actually used to have a few different brands on Instagram. So yes, I had a business on Instagram, and I'm not. Do you mean monetize as in I do receive like money
Yeah,
for?
like do you get
Yes,
paid
yes,
by
yes.
Instagram?
Yes, I do have brands that approach me for commercials and advertisements, and they do pay me for it. However, I don't think that Instagram introduced a monetization system until recently, and I did not yet like, it's not Instagram that pays me, it's the brands that actually pay me in the past. So if you are asking that way, I think that this is my way of monetization. Yes.
Could you share with us some tips for our viewers who want to get monetized on Instagram?
On
How
Instagram?
or what do you do to get monetized on the platform?
You mean as in have these brands approach me
Yeah,
and
to have these
pay me
brands
for deals?
approach you.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure. For me, right, I think that being genuine and authentic is very important because for me, I have many brands that approach me, but I only pick that few that really resonated with my brand, and I wouldn't just do it just for money. I know that what I want at the end of the day is more than that, and I want to bring value to my audience, and my whole Instagram persona, like image, was just for me to be genuine and authentic and often share things that are positive and bring light to people. And I feel like a lot of people on social media, just because they want to get to somewhere, they actually lose themselves in the process and they don't stay real and authentic. And even if at the end of the day they end up getting brand deals and monetization, they're not happy. But for me, I do it because it makes me happy. And as I was just becoming myself and just sharing genuine things on my Instagram, and people would call me like, oh, thank you, Catrina, for like sharing your stories all the time. Your stories bring me light. And that's how like I feel like slowly throughout the way. I didn't even plan to be monetized, but I just gained a lot of viewers and audience on my Instagram just by being myself and just being authentic. And I think that that's the biggest advice I can give to anyone who wants to be monetized on Instagram, because I feel like Instagram is a platform where there's just so many people and so many brands on there. So you have to be unique and stand out as your own in order for people to really see you. And I feel like nowadays people are very smart. Like they can tell if you're like a real deal or not. So I feel like just I think that at the end of the day, just enjoy the process instead of thinking monetization is the end result. I feel like if you enjoy the process enough and you love what you do anyway, even if you're not monetized, I feel like one day things just happen and the universe will hear your call. And if you are being abundant and living your best life, people see it, and people who resonate with you are gonna vibe with you. And if they think that you bring value to the table, they are going to pay you for it. I think this is my take on monetization for
Yeah,
myself.
I love that mindset. I think like making content is not just about like getting monetized, getting
Yes,
paid, but it's more about like how you bring value to the world or to your
yes,
audience. Because
yes,
like people, when you bring value to other people, um, they will find value in you and they will enjoy
yes.
the content, and that is the
That is
whole point
right.
of making content. Yeah.
Yes.
Could you share with us any challenges you have when you are making content on Instagram or on YouTube?
Sure. Actually, I feel like this whole journey is full of challenges, and like to think that life is only fulfilling and fun when there are challenges in the process. So for me, I feel like on my Instagram, the biggest challenge that I had was just feeling the stress and the need to portray the best version of myself, because I'm also a human being. And when there were already people who trusted me and I had my own like potential fan base on my Instagram, a lot of people look up to me, and I had people who literally have their younger sisters who tell me that they watch me a lot and they follow my style. I felt very stressed because I feel like I had to constantly make sure that what I was doing was right, and I had to constantly just keep track on with my own image and everything like that. And sometimes it's draining as well, because sometimes you don't feel like you need to, for example, sometimes you're just not feeling your best. And when you're not, because I'm someone who doesn't like to fake anything, and I'm just a very straightforward person and I'm a very honest person. So sometimes when I don't feel like this, like for example, I'm not happy today, but I was supposed to shoot something today, I would have to force myself to, like portray that I am happy, and I need to try to still be my best even when I'm not at my best. And that is a huge challenge for me, because I feel like people who are watching you, they don't understand you as who you really are, but they understand you from what you show. Which is why in this whole journey, what I've learned is just to be very honest and transparent and vulnerable, even in front of your audience. And I remember once I actually broke down on my story, and I told people like really need to take a break and thank them for just being supportive, and I'm not able to, potentially post stories these few days because I just wasn't at the best form of myself. So I feel like the biggest obstacle in my YouTube is sometimes a little bit similar, but I feel like YouTube, because it's a long form content kind of platform, I have more leverage in terms of my connection with my audiences. They are not there for short. I feel like my Instagram viewers are pretty different from my YouTube ones, because Instagram, they are just more for fun and like dopamine because they're on social media. So for my YouTube, I feel like sometimes I feel the stress of running out of ideas to film, and I'm just sometimes afraid that what I post will not resonate with some people. And sometimes I also have to think about what I say and things like what if whatever I say is bringing enough value to people, because sometimes I'm someone who likes to just be very random and just throw in vlogs and stuff with no context, because I'm like a really I don't know, like sometimes I feel like my personality is just very wild. I just like to just randomly have an idea pop up and just take a video. But sometimes when I look back at the videos, I'm like, oh, but it's not scripted enough. Will am I really saying things that my audience will like? So I feel like the biggest challenges sometimes, and I feel like this is something that a lot of people are gonna be able to resonate with me, is the courage to be disliked by people. Because a lot of times we feel like we need to portray a certain image, or we need to live up to other people's way of thinking, is because we want to be liked by people. So what I have really learned from my obstacles is the courage to be disliked. You have to accept that even if today you are filming a certain content or you are portraying a certain image of yourself, you're gonna have to accept that some people are not gonna agree with you or like you, or you're just gonna be disliked. So when I started to accept that um that it is okay to have people who don't see the way I see things and to not like me, I started to be a lot more peaceful, and I started to be a lot more just laid back in terms of my expectations towards myself, and my challenges started to just not be so daunting anymore, and I started to just be a lot more at peace with what I do, and I just don't really care about what people think anymore. And that is how I slowly started to overcome my challenges in this whole process of being a content creator.
Yeah, I really love your content. I've seen some of your videos. I remember there was one about your eating disorder. Could you share with our viewers about how you got over your eating disorder problems?
Sure, sure. So thank you for, you know, I love when like we content creators are able to find light in each other's content, and I feel like I always learn a lot from you as well, and I'm happy that my journey can actually influence and impact people. So for my eating disorder journey, um it was a very challenging 3 years of my life, to be exact. And it all started when I feel like I needed to be skinny to portray this image on, for example, because I was already, showing this image of myself on my Instagram, and I was a very disciplined and fit girl. So when sometimes I saw that, my body wasn't what my mind tells me, like, oh, you kind of gain weight or you became chubbier, so I felt the need to maintain this skinny image to people. And it really really took the best out of me because I couldn't be happy with my body. And that was when I started to have this eating disorder, was when I had a lot of conflict in myself. I'm someone who loves food a lot, and as a girl, I feel like sometimes we are very stressed on how we look and how our bodies look in this society nowadays. So I had a lot of pressure on that, and it resulted in me binging and purging in this whole journey. So to women, or like to young men out there, I really encourage you guys to just love yourself for who you are, and not feel like you need to live up to society's beauty standards, because that was when everything took a toll on my body, and when you're starting to not have a healthy way of living anymore, because your mental health, your body, and everything will just fall apart when you don't love yourself enough, and when you feel the need to be constantly measuring yourself with a ruler or with a weighing scale, because at the end of the day, the ultimate goal is just to be happy and healthy and keep track of your growth.
Yeah, I really love that. I actually had eating disorder as well when I was like
Oh,
14 and 15. I didn't like how I look and I want to be skinnier.
Oh, okay.
So it was quite hard for me to got over that. But I had to tell myself like I have to be satisfied with the way I look,
Yes.
and I should love myself for who I am, and that could
Yes.
really help me got out of the eating disorder problems. Could you give us tips on how to be confident? I know a lot of my viewers may want to know how to be more confident, especially like for my younger viewers. Do you have any tips on that?
Sure. Yes, I do have a few tips on being confident. I feel like being confident sometimes is a choice. I wasn't born as a very confident young woman. In my earlier years of school and everything, I actually suffered from cyberbullying and people who bullied me in the bus for being really short because my puberty actually hit really late as a girl. So I actually only started to grow at a really late age, and I was always the shortest in my class. So I would have people bully me for that. And I remember when I went to secondary school, I didn't have the courage to make any friends at first because I was just very afraid of being bullied again. So for me, I feel like I started to really build my confidence when I decided that I want to, stand up for myself. I want to just because I believe that I was bullied because I was not confident and I didn't have enough trust in myself. So I started to want to really build confidence when I decided that I want to trust myself and I want to bring myself to different places in my life, and I wanted to lead a life of abundance and good things, and I wanted to build connections with people. So I decided to learn to be confident when I started to take care of myself and my mental health. So I feel like the biggest tip to be confident is really to work on your inner world and not just your outer world. Yes, of course, being pretty, having a good body, having a good image is important, but I feel like if your inner world is empty and you're not filling it with what really takes you to longer place, I mean to like further places in your life, then you're not going to be able to be confident in your life. So I feel like being confident and really nurturing your inner self really comes from being able to take care of your well-being and your mental health and keeping track of your growth and doing self-reflection a lot. When I started to really work on this whole journey of self-growth, I started to be a lot more confident because I started to understand myself a lot more, and I started to not need so much recognition from people from the outside world. I think a lot of us were not confident, or younger people, they are not confident and they are not courageous enough to live out their best version or their true version is because they are thinking of how other people think about them all the time. They are thinking, oh, if I do this, am I gonna be recognized? If I wear this, am I on trend? If I'm not skinny enough, are boys gonna like me? Or yeah, so a lot of things stem from just loving yourself and self-love. So when you love yourself enough and you take care of yourself, you know what you bring to the table and you know your own weaknesses and strengths and you can leverage them. I feel like it is a lot easier to be confident that way because you know yourself so much and you don't need other people to tell you who you are. So, another tip that I have is just to learn to accept yourself for who you are. It is okay to talk differently. It is okay to have certain weaknesses. For me, I used to be very abusive to myself because I couldn't accept my flaws. Like, for example, I had people judge me for certain things like, oh, you're short. Oh, you suck in your studies. You dropped out school early. You're a disgrace to your parents because they sent you to school and you didn't even decide to finish it. Like I had so many people telling me things and I had different voices approaching me. But at the end of the day, I started to accept that, you know what, I'm going to lead a different life from people. Maybe I'm not going to study well, but I'm going to have different things that bring out, my other strengths. I'm going to, even if I didn't finish my studies, I failed all my examinations, I'm going to learn to speak from different ways. I'm going to watch people who perform better than me. I'm going to go to courses that make me grow and I'm going to work on myself instead of thinking that society standards of, oh, you have to, get a degree or bachelor's to be recognized in this role is important. I decided to find my own definition of what I am and what I bring to the table.
Oh wow, that's really powerful. I guess in Asian culture, it's very difficult to like stand out from the crowd, like doing things that is different. Like growing up, we are always told to get a good job, go to uni, and like end up being lawyers, teachers, or doctors, whatever it is.
Yeah,
Do you
for my
find it quite hard to like to be a different person, like not following what your parents want or not following the Asian culture wants? Do you find it
yeah.
hard to do that?
It is definitely hard because I had to deal with so many conflicting voices. Like from young, my I was always different from people. Like I never liked listening to instructions and I always had things my own way because I'm someone who just has a I'm just someone who likes to experience life in my own terms. From young, I'm someone who wants to be free, and from young, I never liked it when my parents told me what to do, and I always tried to rebel against them. And this is why I had, relatives telling my parents things like, why is because I have two younger sisters who are very good in their studies and who caused no problems to my parents at all when they were growing up. But I was actually a pretty rebellious teenager for a young girl. I had my tattoos at a really young age because I didn't feel accepted by by people around me because I was different. I actually self harmed myself a lot in this process because I wanted to, be approved by people. So in this whole process, I have just learned that it is okay to want different things from people, but yes, when the challenges come, just deal with it in a very um accepting manner. Like you have to be okay with your parents having different perspectives from you. Like now I started to understand why my parents wanted me to study. I mean, they actually loved me and they did it out of a goodwill, but I wasn't understanding enough about why people had different perspectives from me. So that was the most challenging part, was also accepting that people had different expectations on me. But I feel like the biggest thing in this whole journey is just maintaining and staying true to what you want. And even when people, don't agree with you, you have to be okay with it. And you have to also tell yourself that you have to stay true to what you really want in your life. And I know for a fact that, just not studying in school and working at a young age was something I wanted because I was always very curious about society, which is what I ended up doing. And yes, in this whole journey, I had so many people telling me I shouldn't be doing what I was doing because I started to work at a really young age. My parents were really disappointed at me and they were like, "Oh, you're not supposed to go out into this bizarre society at 14 years old. So why don't you just stay in school?" But I know that I was just born to be different and I was meant to lead this different path. So yes, I had challenges, but I'm really grateful that they made me who I am. And I also encourage everyone in the world, regardless of where you are or who you are, just go pursue what you want in your life. And even if your parents don't agree with you or anyone else, just have a good talk with them, and they're going to support you if you support yourself enough and if you know what you want in your life.
Yeah, it's great to see how much you have changed from like maybe when you were younger, you got like eating disorders and you're not that confident about yourself, but now you are completely transformed. Yeah, it's nice
Yes.
to see that. Um, could you tell us a little bit more about Malaysia? You are from JB, right? Could you tell
Yes.
us more about like what the city is like?
Oh, sure. So, I think that Malaysia is like a really small city. If you're someone who lives in the UK, Europe, or anywhere else in Asia, I feel like Malaysia is still growing at its own pace. So in JB, it's actually a lot smaller than the bigger city Kuala Lumpur, which is what a lot of people know Malaysia for. But I feel like JB also has its really, really interesting fun things to do. For example, in JB, you're gonna find those stalls that have already been there for about 50 to 70 years, and and you're gonna have three generations cooking the same noodles. So I feel like the food in JB is so good, and actually moving to London, the States, I actually really miss my hometown food so much. And I feel like JB just has its own culture of still remaining the little things. I feel like a lot of countries have already grown to not pass on things from the older generations. Like for example, food, like they're already now doing fast food chains or like just a lot of franchising in the food industry. But in Johor Bahru, you can still literally find food that is so authentic. And literally, I have my grandparents who have ate there from 30 years ago, and now like I'm eating there too. So that's one of the really interesting things about JB, because I feel like it's not a very advanced country. So they're still having some roots from before that are still stamped over there. And I really enjoy that. And it actually keeps me grounded sometimes, because when I go back there, it's not all about the hustle and bustle and like the city and like the city lights, but it's more towards how I was reminded of my childhood, because my parents will often bring me to those different food stalls and different shopping centers when I was young. So it really just brings me back to these really simple memories. And for that, I think that JB is still a really nice place to visit. And if you're international, you're gonna love the food there, because they put in so much heart and soul into their food that's already passed on from like two generations.
Is there like a special dish or any special food from JB?
Yes, I actually really like this thing, and I don't know a good English phrase, but I'm gonna call it like pork noodles. It's called 猪肉粉 in Chinese. So 猪肉粉 is basically they have like but this soup, this particular soup that's called pork noodles, they're gonna have like you can customize your own noodles. So I always go for guo tiao, which is kway tiao. Kway tiao is like a kind of noodles that's
Like
like,
炒粿條.
yes, it's like 炒 guo
I've
tiao, so
tried that
like
in
fried.
Singapore.
Oh, you tried it
Yeah,
before?
I really love it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's really yummy. And I love it in Malaysia because they use the kway teow and they actually use some really good soup. So they cook the broth with charcoal, and they wake up like the aunties who make the pork noodles. They actually wake up really early in their stalls, and they actually go to the market and they get really fresh pork, and they actually cook the broth really well, and then they serve it to their customers. And even though it's like a really cheap, like it's only for like $1 US, like maybe $2 USD, but taste so much love and warmth in that bowl of noodles. So I really recommend you guys go try pork noodles. And I personally love like the pork intestines and kidneys and stuff like that. So I love to put it in my noodles, and it's bomb. But I know a lot of people can't accept those parts of the the pork, so they just go with pork noodles, and it's still really yummy.
Is there a difference between Singapore 炒粿條 and Malaysia 炒粿條?
Yes, there's definitely is. Like in Singapore and Malaysia, we actually have very similar food. Like we have bak kut teh, we have chao guo tiao, and we have a lot of these like dishes that are very Malaysian. It's like rojak. But I feel like Malaysia just does it better in this sense. I'm not being biased because I'm born there, but I've actually tried. And according to my experience, I feel like the differences between Singapore and Malaysia ones is just Malaysia is just a lot more, there's a lot more taste to it. Like they put a lot more stuff into it, and Singapore is just more bland. And I'm not sure, because there's definitely going to be stores that differ from the recipe, but for me, I personally just love the traditional food in Malaysia a lot more. So yes.
I like that word, rojak. Malaysians like to
Yes.
rojak language, rojak food. Could you tell us
Yeah.
some Manglish phrases?
Sure. In Malaysia, they like to put in a lot of like actually in Singapore they call it Singlish, but my form of Singlish in Malaysia, like you were saying Manglish, right? It's a really interesting phrase. I've never heard something like that. But I feel like a lot of us, we like to say things like walao eh, like we like to say like when we are talking in English, we like to add a lot of different things like, can you please stop it lah? Stop being so annoying lah. Like, when we're in other countries, they don't put in las and less and all these things in their language. But in Malaysia, they just like to speak more broken English. And for Manglish, Malay times English, like I'll just give you a sentence. People like to say, um nanti I nak makan KFC lah. KFC yummy lah. Like, so it's like I want to eat KFC, and KFC is yummy. So I feel like Malaysians, when they mix Malay and English, it's just really funny. It's just literally broken English with Malay. So yeah, I sometimes when I talk to my Malay friends, I'm like, hari ini kita pergi makan rojak lah. Rojak yummy, right? Like you were gonna like mix in stuff like that. So there's no particular word for a Manglish, but it's just they mix like different things into the whole sentence that kind of makes it really funny and like, yeah.
yeah, I really love. I'm actually learning Manglish now. I find it quite
Oh,
interesting because
really?
I got some Malaysian friends
Okay.
here in the UK,
Oh,
and I'm trying
what's
to
their way of English?
their
How
way of
about you share with
English.
me too?
Like, what do you mean?
Like how their way of like their is their Manglish the same as me? Like
I
was
think they
theirs also
use
like that?
less Malay words, but they
Oh,
use
okay.
more like Hokkien, Cantonese,
Oh,
Mandarin.
okay. Okay.
I've also been watching some Malaysian YouTubers, you know,
Oh,
Chili Boy, uh, Danku, and I forget the last one. Yeah, so basically, yeah, I've been watching Chili Boy and Danku,
okay.
and I really love their accent.
Okay, that's nice. I don't think I know them because I think that I watch a lot more like YouTubers from overseas from young, but I will check them out. Nice.
Check it out. What did you makan this morning?
I actually had not makan yet. I have not had my breakfast yet because I'm actually gonna have I'm gonna make some banana pancakes after this, my own recipe of it. So I have not makan yet. How about you?
Um, yes, I only had breakfast this morning.
Okay.
I had what did I have? I don't really remember. Yeah, but I have already eaten something. Yeah, and then
When I
went to
was
the
in the
gym.
UK, I love croissants so much. I feel like,
Croissants.
Pret and Malaysia has really good croissants for only like $1, and it's so good.
Croissants is from France, but we also have a
Yes.
lot here.
Yes, but I love to go to Pret and Manager for croissants when I was in the UK. It was just my thing every morning before I went to school. I would just grab like a croissant and a coffee. Yeah.
Well, Katrina, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks, Colin, for having me. I had so much fun talking to you.
Yeah, we have learned a lot about like your journey to starting YouTube, your journey to self improvement, and we have learned some English phrases today.
I'm
Thank you
happy
so
to
much.
share.